The root of most men's problems with women, and sometimes even life in general, stems from a brain that is oversexualized. A mind that prioritizes the physical to levels that are harmful and destructive to achieving your goals. And the thing is that many guys don't even recognize this as a problem within themselves. They walk around blindly oblivious to what's going on, or if they are aware of what's going on, they believe that it's something that they're simply a victim of. They essentially believe that they're a slave to their biology and nothing is wrong with their behavior. But we don't play that slave or victim game over here, nor do we want to be average. So let's talk more about why desexualizing your brain is critical and the huge benefits you gain from it. So to lay the foundation here, it's important to understand that women's entire sexual or mating strategy revolves around leveraging your desire to get laid. The low-cut shirts, the push-up bras, the tight skirts, the BBLs, the implants, the filters that make them look younger, the high heels, the list goes on and on. All of these physical enhancements revolve around maximizing their beauty to make them more sexually attractive to men. So if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. If a woman cannot leverage your sexuality against you, she has zero power. Absolutely none. And once you've stripped their primary leverage point away from them, you are basically uncontrollable. Women know this too, and that's why they don't respect guys that are easily leveraged that way. It's called being thirsty, and it's why all the guys in their comments on their Instagram get ignored and laughed at. And if you watch the video I did on DMing girls on Instagram, the girl I was talking to in that video said the same thing. Girls immediately disregard any thirsty dudes in the comments. It doesn't matter how old the girl is, what generation she's from, what country she's from, it's the same across the board, regardless of culture. Guys like this are looked down upon. And what's happening is those guys are so controlled by their sexual impulses that they will throw away their dignity and masculinity in hopes of getting a chance with this woman that they know nothing about. And there's nothing more repulsive to a woman than a guy that can be easily controlled. This woman they're commenting heart eye emojis to is literally just flesh and bone on a screen. They know nothing about her, and they damn sure haven't seen her without makeup and all her best angles and push-up bras and all that stuff. And that's another problem with having an over-sexualized brain, but I'll get more into that in a second. But in a similar vein, I wanted to give you bigger perspective on this point that I'm making about how things with women and businesses are designed to leverage your sexual desire. And to illustrate this point, I want you to imagine the world if men had no sex drive at all. And I was thinking about this a few weeks ago when the last UFC event was on and the ring girl was walking around the cage and she blows a kiss to the camera and all that, and you could hear dudes whistling in the crowd. And I've been to these events live, and when the ring girls walk around, dudes start whistling and yelling every single time, and I can't help but laugh at the thirst. But it got me thinking deeper about how the ring girls only exist because it leverages guys' desire for sex. It adds this sexual bonus to the event where if you watch the UFC, you're guaranteed to see some women that are damn near in their bra and panties walking around. And if you think about if guys had no sex drive, there would be no ring girls. There also wouldn't be any strip clubs or OnlyFans or nightclubs or maybe even no Instagram. So many industries and women profit off guys having a brain that is so sexualized that they will pay large sums of money just to sit and watch women from afar that they will never touch. Many guys will pay just to be in the environment of women they find beautiful. Like, think about how lame that is. But that's how powerful a man's sexual desire is, and that's why women and businesses leverage it. Now, with all that said, we are human beings and we can't completely override our biology. If a UFC ring girl walked through the door right now through this room, I'm gonna notice her body. We all would. But the key is developing awareness of your biology, capturing your thoughts, and then shaping your reaction. And this is the part where most guys mess up everything. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that many men bombard their brain with sexualizing and pedestaling women every single day, and usually multiple times a day. If you open up your Instagram feed right now and your explore page is just half naked women everywhere, you're the guy I'm talking to right now. Constantly flooding your brain with sexualized images of women reminds me of the problem with following a lot of fitness influencers that are men. And let me explain what I mean. I used to be really into bodybuilding years ago. I'd watch all the videos of pros training online every day to get motivated, and I'd follow the fitness influencers with the best physiques to get inspired to train hard. And there were some benefits to that. You know, when you see the highest levels of something, it can inspire you to push yourself to new heights, which is a good thing. But it also created a problem of body dysmorphia to where my own standards of what looked good became so warped that it completely destroyed my standards of what a good physique was. and it distorted the image that I had of myself. It became this issue to where if I wasn't 220 pounds shredded, I didn't think I looked impressive, or if I wasn't benching 405 pounds for reps, I wasn't strong. It created this unrealistic standard that messed up my perception of reality until I got away from it for a while and allowed my mind to reset. Now, this same thing happens with looking at pictures and videos of girls online every day and then sharing them to friends and being like, yo, look at this baddie, man, this 10 out of 10, man, she's so hot, drooling over these girls all the time. And not only do you start to pedestal these women in your mind to a level that's ridiculous, you start to develop this unrealistic view and standard for women to where girls aren't even that interesting to you unless they're a 9 out of 10 with a perfect body. And again, this is just an illusion anyway. I can tell you from working as a photographer that a lot of these girls you guys drool over look way more average in person without all the lighting, the filters, the makeup, the angles, and all that. The first time this really dawned on me was when I was doing some work in LA, and we had a few models coming in to model a product. These girls had between 500,000 to 2 million followers on Instagram, and were doing the typical thirst trap posting on Instagram with dudes just flooding the comments. But I saw these girls early in the day when they were heading into makeup and hair, and I didn't even recognize them at first. My assistant at the time was confused too. He was like, "These are the models for the project?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And when they came out of makeup and wardrobe and were ready for the shoot, these girls morphed into completely different humans. Like, I'm obviously aware that girls look different with and without makeup, but some women can literally morph into another human being altogether. And one of these girls specifically was taking selfies off to the side, and she posted one to her Instagram. And when I looked at the photo, it was heavily filtered, and it was one of those things where I could see her in person in front of me, and then also the photo side by side, and she didn't look anywhere near as good in person as she did in the photo. And I'm not even trying to knock that girl specifically or hate on her in any way. She was still an unattractive girl, and I'm not even really knocking other girls that do this stuff because I understand why they do it. It just works. But as men, we can't control what women are doing on their end, but we can control our response. And you have to really grasp the fact that the women you are pedestaling are just humans that will get old one day and her looks will fade, and even now she's got flaws anyway. You're just focusing on a few things that turn you on. And I always say that your game isn't truly tested until you're with a girl that you view as an 8 or a 9. Not a girl that's objectively an 8 or a 9, but one that you perceive as being an 8 or a 9. Because we all have different opinions in terms of looks. But 9 times out of 10, most guys' game will completely crumble with a girl that they view as being highly attractive. It just falls apart. And that's because you put so much emphasis on the girl's beauty and her physical attributes due to your sex drive that you start putting her on a pedestal and doing all this extra stuff to try and make a good impression. But when you make an effort to desexualize your mind by directing your focus more toward her behavior and personality instead of just the physical, you will immediately act in a more calm, masculine way that vets her properly. Guys get themselves in trouble when they're so honed in on the physical and getting sex, or even just having this woman as a trophy girl on his arm, that they begin to sacrifice their standards and who they are in hopes of bagging this girl, which always leads to not bagging the girl. Girls sense thirst from 100 miles away, and guys can too for that matter. I've worked with guys that were borderline embarrassing to be associated with because they were just emanating this thirsty aura around girls we were working on a project with. And you may not realize it in the moment. You may think that you're just being chill or cool with this girl, but your mindset is being projected in everything you do and say, and in your expressions and body language. Realize that the people around you know when you are run by your sexual impulses and you have put a woman on a pedestal in your mind, and your game falls apart because of it. And that's why when you do the opposite and you gain composure and you aren't overly impressed by a woman's appearance, your power levels increase leaps and bounds, and women will be dumbfounded in some cases, like, damn, I can't move this guy at all. Some women are so used to getting anything they want from a flash of some cleavage or a tight skirt that they run out of options when they come across a dude that isn't moved by all of that. When you're evaluating if a girl is even worth the time or not based on her personality and her behavior, there's a drastic power shift. And that's why something like post-nut clarity is so powerful. You'll see all these funny memes about post-nut clarity online, but if you seriously think about it, post-nut clarity is actually what I said earlier about imagining the world if men didn't have a sex drive. Post-nut clarity strips your sex drive away temporarily and allows you to see your reality through a perspective that isn't affected by sexual impulse at all. And that's the only time we can do this. It's the rare time we can actually remove the sexual lens from our eyes as men on a deeper biological level due to the temporary hormonal shift and see things more clearly. And you'll notice that you are far less impressed by any sexual attempts when your brain is in that temporary state. You aren't driven to go out of your way and simp for some girl to hopefully get laid, and you don't care to immediately start swiping through half-naked girls on TikTok. It's that frame of mind you're aiming to have in everyday life. And you won't be able to fully get there like that because of that hormonal shift, but you can emulate it in the sense that you train yourself to actively avoid all of these sexualized images that we are bombarded with every day. Go on social media right now and unfollow all those girls that you thirst over, all those girls that don't know you exist, nor do they care that you exist, and you have no hopes of ever talking to or meeting. And when those girls pop up on your social media feed, use that feature that says like, don't show me this content, and curate your feed. You can choose to shape how your feed looks in your explore page and all that. So when that stuff comes up, send it right back out. And stop watching porn and overly sexual music videos and anything else that fits that criteria of trying to flood your mind with sex all the time. You won't miss out on anything by getting rid of this stuff either. It's not like you're gonna lose your drive for women as a man just because you're not looking at this stuff online all the time. In fact, it'll make you hungrier to go out and find women in real life because you won't be constantly scratching that itch through a screen on a phone or a computer. You'll have to actually go meet women, and your standards won't be unrealistically high to where you can't enjoy normal women in everyday life. I did another video on how prawn destroys your mind, and in that video I talked about a guy I knew that went to strip clubs and watched prawn all the time, and he was the pickiest guy I've ever known with women. Every single girl in real life was ugly to him or had some glaring flaw, but this dude never got with any women himself and was always paying to watch women on a stage instead. That's the type of thing that happens when you constantly flood your brain with sexuality. Normal girls just don't do it for you anymore. And I'm not saying to not have standards or want to date attractive women. Definitely aim for the attractive girls, but realize that they aren't these fake women that you see on social media. Like, really guys, take it from me. Take it from someone who has been paid to make people look better in photos and in Photoshop. You are usually looking at an illusion. And understand that an overly sexualized brain leads you down this illusionary path to where you will reach a point of diminishing returns, and sex won't actually be that impressive to you. There's a quote by Kanye West, although I don't know if it's actually from him because the internet never attributes quotes to the right people. Every quote online is either from Abraham Lincoln or Aristotle. But anyway, the quote is, "Having money isn't everything, not having it is." And it makes sense. When you don't have something, it becomes the primary focus, and it's like that with women too. I understand that it can drive guys crazy to not be getting laid or getting any women, but once you do start to get women, you will inevitably reach this point, even if it's just for a split second in your mind, to where you start to realize or question that if the effort you put in to get the end result was even worth it. You'll start to realize that there's this large disparity between investment and reward. It's like if I invested $30,000 to make a $500 profit. Most people would say, oh cool, you made a profit. But if you think about it, I had to risk 30 grand just to get a $500 return. That's not a great return on my investment. It's similar with dating. You put this huge emphasis on sex and sacrifice time, money, or even your dignity as a man if you've been simping, all to get laid. And when you really think about it objectively, there's an imbalance there in terms of what you're getting for what you're investing. And again, I'm not saying don't date or try to get women. I think it's actually more important than ever to date and have good relationships now because so many people have this doomer mindset and are just giving up. But my point is to be aware of how much emphasis you put on the outcome and avoid putting sex on this pedestal as the ultimate thing that you will crawl through glass and lava to get. And I understand how bad it can suck to not have that intimacy with a woman now if you're in that scenario, but you have to control your mind and not let your sexual impulses overrun you to get it. It's like many things in life where our brain drives us to do something and then we aren't all that impressed once we get it. So keep that in mind. It's worth having, but it's not worth sacrificing your dignity as a man and simping for it or flooding your mind at all hours of the day with all the sexual stuff we come across. Understand how women and businesses are trying to leverage your mind and take back that control. A man who is in control of his sexual impulses is a powerful man that cannot be controlled, and so many men are being controlled as we speak. Damn, this was a longer video than I expected, and I still have more that I want to say about this topic. But anyway, check the links in the description, sign up for the newsletter, and make sure you watch this video next. And I will see you in the next one.